Imagine a dynasty so corrupt, so ineffective, that it almost brought the mighty Byzantine Empire to its knees. While the Byzantines are often celebrated for their remarkable endurance, incredible architecture and powerful emperors like Justinian the Great, not all dynasties were glorious. One dynasty stands out for its notorious mismanagement and the near collapse of the empire, the Angeloi Dynasty. How did this disastrous dynasty push the empire to the brink of ruin? In this story, we'll explore the rise and catastrophic fall of the Angeloi Dynasty and its infamous impact on the history of the Byzantine Empire. Stay with us as we dive into one of the most chaotic periods in Byzantine history. The Angeloi dynasty began in 1185 with the ascension of Isaac II, Angelos. Unlike the powerful and strategic rulers who came before him, Isaac II came to power through a combination of luck and the collapse of the previous regime. His rise was swift, but the empire he inherited was already in a precarious state. Political factions vied for control, the military was underfunded, and foreign enemies encroached on Byzantine territory from all sides. At first, there was hope that Isaac II could restore order. However, it quickly became apparent that he was ill-prepared to rule. His lack of military leadership and poor financial management began to strain the empire. Instead of strengthening the Byzantine borders, he relied on diplomacy, often paying off enemies rather than confronting them. This tactic drained the treasury and emboldened the empire's enemies, particularly the Bulgarians, who would soon rise against the Byzantines in a rebellion that Isaac II was powerless to stop. The empire's territorial integrity began to unravel, as the Angeloi proved incapable of maintaining the vast empire that previous dynasties had fought so hard to protect. Isaac's reign came to an abrupt end in 1195 when he was overthrown in a coup by his own brother, Alexios III Angelos. If Isaac II had been a weak ruler, Alexios III was far worse. Under his rule, the Byzantine Empire entered one of its darkest chapters. Corruption ran rampant, and the military, which was already weakened, was neglected even further. Alexios III preferred to enrich himself and his courtiers rather than address the pressing threats to the empire. One of the most significant threats came from the west, the Fourth Crusade. What began as a military campaign to reclaim Jerusalem from Muslim control soon turned into a nightmare for the Byzantines. By the year 1204, Alexios' negligence and political maneuvering had led to disaster. The Crusaders, instead of heading to the Holy Land, were persuaded to attack Constantinople itself. The infamous Siege of Constantinople marked one of the most devastating events in the empire's history. The city, once the jewel of Christendom, was sacked and pillaged by the Crusaders. Constantinople's fall was a direct consequence of the Angeloi dynasty's misrule. The empire was shattered, the capital was lost, and the Byzantine Empire was reduced to a shadow of its former glory. The Angeloi had managed to accomplish what centuries of invasions and wars could not: bring the Byzantine Empire to its knees. Act 3, the empire fractured, the legacy of the Angeloi. The fall of Constantinople in 1204 didn't just result in the temporary loss of the city, it fractured the entire Byzantine world. What remained of the empire was divided into several smaller, competing states: the Empire of Nicaea, the Despotate of Epirus, and the Empire of Trebizond. These states were left to pick up the pieces of the once mighty empire, but it would take over 50 years for the Byzantines to retake their capital in 1261. Even then, the empire that was restored under the Palaiologos dynasty was a shadow of its former self. The damage caused by the Angeloi dynasty and the Crusaders' occupation left the Byzantines vulnerable to future enemies, particularly the rising power of the Ottoman Turks, who would eventually conquer Constantinople in 1453. The Angeloi dynasty's legacy is one of corruption, incompetence, and ultimate failure. Their mismanagement not only led to the fall of the Byzantine capital, but also hastened the empire's decline. What could have been a period of recovery and strength became one of decline and fragmentation. Act 4, what made the Angeloi dynasty so infamous? So why is the Angeloi dynasty considered the worst in Byzantine history? It wasn't just their incompetence, it was their utter disregard for the welfare of the empire. where other rulers sought to expand and protect Byzantine interests. The Angeloi were focused on personal gain and short-term solutions. They allowed the empire's military to deteriorate, weakened the economy, and made fatal diplomatic errors that ultimately led to the empire's greatest catastrophe, the loss of Constantinople. Unlike other Byzantine dynasties that made significant contributions to the empire's culture, economy, or military, the Angeloi left nothing but devastation in their wake. Their reign represents everything that could go wrong when leadership is detached from the reality of governance. Act 5, the end of the Angeloi, a dark legacy. The fall of the Angeloi dynasty came swiftly after the Fourth Crusade. Alexios III fled Constantinople during the siege, abandoning the city and its people. In the end, the Angeloi dynasty was remembered not for its achievements, but for its role in the empire's darkest hour. Their reign stands as a cautionary tale in history. When leadership fails, even the mightiest empires can fall. For the Byzantines, the Angeloi represented the failure of leadership, and their downfall set the stage for the slow, painful decline of the Byzantine Empire in the centuries that followed. Curious about the leaders who shaped the Roman Empire? Don't miss our previous video on who was the longest-serving emperor of Rome. Discover how Augustus maintained his reign and helped Rome reach its peak. Tap the link and continue unraveling the rise and fall of empires.